Welcome, everyone, back to the HockeyNorth podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Croomskie, with my good friend, Brendan Pawliw. Brendan, how are you doing today?
I'm well. Thank you very much for asking.
Oh, that's good, man. And, it was supposed to be a big weekend here. So they're supposed to have the U17 AAA Cariboo Cougars in town playing along with the U AAA Cougars, but that nasty flu bug is certainly getting in the way. And, of course, U18's had a good weekend. And what were your thoughts going into the weekend? I mean, top team in the Okanagan Rockets, and you got the Cariboo Cougars, who are there's nights where they look like they could be a top team, and there's a few nights where they kind of look a step behind. So, what were your thoughts on the weekend?
I thought there were two back and forth games, one goal games pretty much throughout. The one in Kintu on Saturday, they came back from 2-0 down to pull on even terms, and then of course that late goal there by Aiden Bruce to win it for Okanagan, plus the empty netter on Saturday to make it a 4-2 spread. And then, of course, fast track a day later, not even a day later, to CN Center on Sunday, where they lose 3-2. They scored first in that game, courtesy of Ryan Tour. Then Okanagan stepped it up in the second period, scored twice, and then got the empty netter. Merrick Mamek put Caribou back within one with about 33 seconds left, but could not get the equalizer past Dylan Adams, and unfortunately, Caribou U18s with the unfortunate goose egg through two spirited contests against the Rockets.
For sure. And with that said, one of our guests on this week's podcast, we have U18 AAA Cariboo Cougars alumni and Hudson's Hope BC product, John Herrington, on the podcast, currently playing for the Prince George Spruce Kings of the BCHL. And an unreal talent. He was just named to the All-Star team for the BCHL, which is a huge honor, and I think definitely earned. And he's really put that team on his back this year to start. But before we get that interview going with him, we have former Northern Capitals player, I should say, in Dawson's Creek product, Hailey Armstrong, who's currently playing for the Rink Hockey Academy. She'll be on the podcast today as well. But before we get into that, Brendan Pawliw, how about your junior A and college updates?
Well, first off, I want to send a shout out to Brett Fudger of the NCAA ranks and former Caribou Cougar, scoring his first goal with Sonny Oswego last week with his college. He's off to a good season in the NCAA Division III ranks, 3 points in 5 games for him, following in the footsteps of local product and former Spruce King and RJ Bear, as that was his alma mater in the NCAA. So congratulations, Fudge, on a job well done so far in the NCAA collegiate rankings. Fast tracking here to the Kootenay International Junior Hockey League. We'll start there this weekend as Jasper Tate of Prince George, now 7-1 on the young season for the Nelson Leafs. He picked up a victory here over the weekend against his opponent on Sunday, rather, as we record this podcast, a 10-5 victory over the Creston Valley Thundercats. Nelson and the Thundercats were actually even in shots, 35 apiece, but it was a 5 power play goal effort for the Nelson Leafs to assist Jasper Tate in that victory. So one more victory for Jasper on the young season. Lucky number 7 for him. Taking a look around the Osoyoos Coyotes, filled with northern talent there. Carter Yarish, the former Caribou Cougar, 28 points in 15 games for the Coyotes. 22 of those 28 points are helpers. Jack Henderson of Quesnel, 23 points in 14 games for Osoyoos as well. And then going down the list in terms of talent that's on the Coyotes, we have a blue liner in Zach Leslie of 5 points in 14 games. Ethan Flores, 8 points in 15 games. And of course, one of the netminders for the Osoyoos Coyotes, that being Kenny Giroux, a former Caribou Cougar and Prince George product, 4-3 on the season, 3.08 goals against average, 905 save percentage. So Kenny Giroux, one of a number of northern prospects, or northern products rather, playing for the Osoyoos Coyotes of the Kootenay International Junior Hockey League. 100 Mile House Wranglers, they have a slew of northern products on their team. Maybe not quite where they want to be in the standings, but double-digit representation there for the 100 Mile House Wranglers in our region. Kelowna Chiefs, Fort St. John product, Easton Hall, 5 points in 18 games for him. Easton Hall, of course, 1 assist in 2 weekend games for the Kelowna Chiefs. He picked up a helper on Sunday in a 6-4 defeat at the hands of the Golden Rockets. So good job, Easton, on an effective weekend. And, of course, Dane Levesque of Kitimat, also a Kelowna Chief player for them. He's got 12 points in 18 games. Does Dane. He had his 7-game point streak snapped over the weekend as he went pointless in both the weekend games against Kamloops and Golden. So an unfortunate thing for him there. Hopefully he can start up a new point streak for the Chiefs. And of course, fellow Prince George product Jackson Redmond playing for the Chiefs as well down in Kelowna. 5 points in 20 games for him. And he also picked up a helper in a 6-4 defeat on Sunday at the hands of the Golden Rockets. So there's Jackson Redmond for you as well. Vancouver Island Junior Hockey League, Sean Meehan of the Campbell River Storm, the Prince George product, 5 points in 19 games. He did have one helper recently for the Campbell River Storm. It was in a 3-1 win over the Nanaimo Buccaneers. It was a road win for the Storm in that one. Chase Pacheco of the Port Alberni Bombers still lighting it up for them, 21 points in 22 games. Pointless over the last couple for Port Alberni, but still a point per game pace for him, as I mentioned. Kenyon McIsaac, his fellow Prince George product and teammate, 13 points in 21 games for the Bombers. He had a helper for Port Alberni in a game over the weekend. That was against the West Shore Wolves, and it was a 3-2 victory for the Bombers. So some minor success for Kenyon. Kenyon, of course, one of many players that's graduated on from the Cariboo Cougar program. AJHL now, Hunter Brown of Fort St. John, 13 points, 19 games. He had 1 assist for the Spruce Grove Saints in a 4-1 victory over the Lloydminster Bobcats on Friday. So congratulations, Hunter Brown, his teammate in Prince George product, Bofi Dunn, still out of the lineup for the Saints. So hopefully he gets back in the Spruce Kings, or the Spruce Grove Blue Line rather soon. Decker Moychan of the Grand Prairie Storm, Prince George product, 1 assist, 17 games for him. He was held pointless over the weekend for Grand Prairie. Also 2 for the Grand Prairie Storm. Owen Paul Freeman, no longer on the roster for them, so we'll see what happens to his hockey future. To the BCHL now, Braden McIsaac of the Alberni Valley Bulldogs, a brief homecoming for him as he played the Prince George Spruce Kings at the Copar Memorial Arena on Wednesday, which was a pretty dominant second half of the game for Prince George. It was a 5-2 victory for them in that game, so McIsaac held pointless there. Diego Johnson, the University of Wisconsin commit and Fort St. James product, he was held pointless over the weekend in games against Cranbrook and Trail, 2 road games for the Centennials, 7 points in 16 games for him. Prince George Spruce Kings flooded with Northern products, and of course John Herrington, one of our guests, who we'll hear from very shortly, 19 points in 20 games for him. Lyndon Macau of Vanderhoof, a guest recently on the podcast, 15 points in 20 games for him. Scott Cousins, first BCHL goal in a win against Alberni Valley a couple of nights ago. He's got 2 points in 8 games, and of course Jordan Fairley, fellow HockeyNorth athlete, enjoying a good season with Prince George, 11-3-0-2 on the year, 2.41 goals against average, 912 save percentage, so good job, Jordan, there in between the pipes. Nathan Mackey, the recent Michigan State commit and Prince George product, 15 points in 19 games for the Salmon Arm Silverbacks. He picked up an assist in a game at home against the Alberni Valley Bulldogs recently. Quinn Disher of the Trail Smoke Eaters, the Fort St. John product, and Michigan Tech commit. He's got 13 points, 18 games for the Trail Smoke Eaters. He scored in Friday's heartbreaking 4-3 defeat at the hands of the Spruce Kings, did Quinn Disher. And Aiden Reeves of the West Kelowna Warriors, the Prince George product and former PG Cougar and Spruce King, as well as Cariboo Cougar, 2 points in 18 games for the West K Warriors. His only point of the weekend was an assist in a 4-2 loss to the Alberni Valley Bulldogs. So good job there, Aiden. Taking a look at the Canada West Conference, it was a battle of the former Cariboo Cougar teammates as the Trinity Western Spartans and the Calgary Dinos were even out in terms of their weekend set. Trinity Western winning 5-1 on Friday. That was followed up by a 3-1 Calgary Dinos win on Saturday. So Carson Niven, Ella Boone, Brooklyn Hutchings, of course, members of the Trinity Western Spartans, Brett Curley and Keegan Goulet, teammates with the Calgary Dinos. Of course, most of those players have been guests on the podcast. Keegan Goulet did not play in either game this past weekend. Brooklyn Hutchings just played in one of the two games for the Spartans, while Carson Niven is redshirting for Trinity Western. Taking a look at the Canadian Sports School Hockey League, Maria Eyre, former Northern Capital, the Northern Alberta Extreme female U18 prep squad, 16 points, 19 games, 1 assist over the weekend against the Southern Alberta Hockey Academy over the weekend. Her teammate, Casey Dittner, with the Northern Alberta Extreme, 7 points in 19 games. She also had a helper in that contest as well. Riley Peterson of Smithers, 2007 born player with the Rank Hockey Academy in Kelowna, 8 points in 14 games, 2 assists over the weekend for him. For Riley, that was a game against the Pacific Coast Academy where Rank were 10-2 winners. They outshot Pacific Coast 61-29 in that game, so an offensive performance there for Rank. Ronan Martin of Prince George, he's a 2009 born blue liner, 6 points and 11 games for him. He had 2 assists over the weekend there. Ethan Hamilton of Prince George, 2006 born defenseman for the Okanagan Hockey Academy U17 prep team, 4 assists in 8 games for him. And Chase Herrington, who will be a guest on the podcast here in the not too distant future, 17 points and 9 games for Delta. 2 assist effort for him over the weekend. So there you have it in terms of the wrap. But I also want to mention before I turn it over to you, 5 Northern BC hockey players named to the Team BC Program of Excellence Canada Winter Games Camp just before Christmas. Canada Winter Games, of course, taking place in Summerside, PEI. Cameron Schmidt, Chase Herrington of Prince George among 15 forwards, vying for 12 spots in the U16 training camp, which runs December 16th to 18th down in Whistler. Cariboo Cougars U17 netminder and local product Ryder Green, one of 3 goalies selected in that camp. Schmidt, of course, taken 7th overall by Vancouver Giants. Herrington 8th overall for Spokane. On the women's side, 2 former Northern Caps attending that camp as well in the U18 girls camp for Team BC. Hailey Armstrong, of course, and Maria Eyre were the 2 invites there. So best of luck to all 5 players as they go camping ahead of the Christmas season and hope to land a spot in the Canada Winter Games.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Brendan. And we got our Cariboo Hockey Weekly coming up. But before that, we're going to go over some of the updates here for our Northern athletes playing in the Western Hockey League over the weekend. So on Friday, we had Hayden Smith, the Chetwynd BC product, suiting up for the Lethbridge Hurricanes. He had 1 assist and a 3-2 victory, shootout victory, I should add, over the Red Deer Rebels. And then on the Saturday night, the Lethbridge Hurricanes didn't quite get the same result. They lost 4-2 to the Edmonton Oil Kings. And Carson Golder had 2 goals for the Oil Kings in that victory. That's the Terrace BC product. One of the 20-year-olds manning the blue line for the Oil Kings this season, as they're in that rebuilding stage after having such an electric team last year that went all the way to the finals. And then all the way in Saskatoon, Tanner Molendijk, the McBride BC product for the Saskatoon Blades, had an assist in a 4-3 OT victory over Medicine Hat. And the Prince George Cougars had a really big weekend down on the island in Victoria. Caden Brown got on the scoreboard in a 9-1 victory over the Royals. On Saturday, Caden Brown also chipped in with a helper in a 5-2 victory as they completed the weekend sweep in Victoria. And Fort St. James product Terrell Goldsmith and the Prince Albert Raiders beat the Tigers 5-4. Terrell Goldsmith held pointless in that game. Niko Majatovic and the Seattle Thunderbirds beat Everett 2-1 in overtime on Saturday. And that's going to just about do it here for our Western Hockey League athletes. And we're going to be going into our Cariboo Hockey Weekly. And for our Cariboo Hockey Weekly, we were going to have a couple teams in basically going this weekend. The U17s unfortunately had their games canceled due to illness. So their games with Thompson Valley, sorry, not Thompson Valley, the Thompson Blazers, but the U18s did play, and they were hosting Rockets. They lost 4-2 on Saturday night in a hard-fought contest, and then lost 3-2 this morning here as we're recording here on Sunday. So some two hard-fought games for the U18s. I thought they played excellent, but unfortunately didn't quite get the bounces, and a tough opponent on the other end as well. And then the Northern Capitals, they had a 3-game road swing over in the Okanagan against the Lakers. They went 1-2 on that stretch, so not too bad, not ideal, but that is our Cariboo Hockey Weekly Roundup. All right, and our first interview for today is Hailey Armstrong of Dawson Creek. Brendan, what are your thoughts heading into this interview?
Well, Hailey Armstrong, one of the more electrifying players in the Northern Capital program in recent memory, one of many electrifying players that have come through the Northern Caps in recent years, and she was part of that core group that included Keegan Goulet, Ella Boone, Brooklyn Hutchings, Carson Niven, Maria Eyre. The list goes on and on. Of course, the Caps one game away from winning it all last year. Armstrong, like a few other players around the female ranks, deciding to go the academy route, playing for the Rink Academy this year down in Kelowna. We talked about the move down there as well as her nothing but fond memories with the Northern Capitals over her 3 seasons. And of course, playing in the first ever outdoor Winter Classic a couple of seasons ago, playing against the Greater Vancouver Comets there back in 2020. So kick back, relax, and enjoy Hailey Armstrong as we caught up with her on this week's episode of the HockeyNorth podcast. Well, when you talk about clutch female hockey players in the northern region, one of them of recent memory that comes to mind is Hailey Armstrong. Hailey Armstrong, of course, the former Northern Capital, and now playing for the Rink Hockey Academy in Kelowna. Hailey, how is your season going so far?
It's been pretty good. We've been pretty busy so far, and we have a busy few more weekends coming up before Christmas, and it's been going pretty good. We've had a great start.
And I guess first and foremost, just maybe talk about the type of team that you have out in Rink in Kelowna, and how your roster stacks up with the rest of the competition out in the Canadian Sports School Hockey League.
Pretty good. We're a very skilled team. We have a lot of skilled individual players, and we've come together really nice. And so we're all like great team players, and it's made a great atmosphere so far. And that's definitely helped us along the way, especially the start of the season. We started off pretty busy with a few big tournaments, so it's been good.
Now, you've accomplished a lot already over the course of your AAA tenure with the Capitals, as well as what you're doing provincially and with Rink. We'll get to more of that in a moment. But first, let's go back to your younger years when you grew up in Dawson Creek. When did you first want to get involved in hockey, and how did that passion for the sport start for you?
Well, my cousins, I have a lot of white cousins, and they all grew up playing hockey, and that was kind of their thing. And I always wanted to be like them. So I joined Can Skate with them, and then it kind of just evolved from there. So that's kind of how it all started.
Do you have any childhood idols growing up?
Probably just my cousins around me. I spent lots of time with them, and they were always like definitely some role models.
Did you ever have any NHL players that you aspired to be like or watch? Did you have any with the women's national team that you really had, a passion for, or really an appreciation for growing up?
Yeah, definitely from the NHL. Connor McDavid was my favorite player growing up. I love the Oilers, so when he joined the Oilers team, that was definitely a big plus. And then from the girls' side, Hailey Wickenheiser. I thought when I was younger, it was always cool. We had the same name, but she was always kind of someone that stood out and that I watched while she was on the team.
It's a good choice. Just maybe touch on your time with the Northern Capitals. You spent 3 seasons there, obviously the pandemic year. You didn't actually play any games, but just maybe talk about your time with that program as well as maybe some of your favorite memories or highlights when you're with the Caps.
Oh, it was a great 3 years. Definitely, I developed a lot there, and it was a great part of my journey. Some of my favorite memories, probably the Winter Classic. That was definitely a great experience, and lots of the traveling. I feel like from being from the North, we traveled a lot, and we always had so many different adventures. Being stuck in Vancouver, the floods last year, just things like that. They always make great memories because it's like once in a lifetime it'll happen to you.
I think you were stuck on a bus there for the better part of the day. What was that like when the floods hit last season?
No, it was crazy. We actually got stuck in Vancouver, and so did our bus driver. We ended up having to fly home. We spent most of the week there, played a few extra games, and we actually had to fly home.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about the first Winter Classic. A lot of players from that team that you developed with over the course of your 2-3 seasons with the Capitals that you played with all the way through pretty much. What did it mean to you to be part of history, being the first female hockey players to be part of a Winter Classic that first year?
It was pretty incredible. We were fortunate enough to play. It was quite cold out that weekend, but it was like the whole experience and how it was all set up was great.
Mm-hmm. You also had a chance to go to the Wilcox Notre Dame tournament last year. I've talked to many parents and players about how you kind of marveled at the atmosphere and how it was hard to hear at times. What was it like to go to these smaller communities and other provinces and kind of experience Canadian in a bit of a different sense when it comes to the women's game?
Yeah. So their first game we played there, first game of the tournament, their whole school was there. It felt like their stands were packed and they were cheering. They were booing us actually. So they weren't actually cheering for us, but it was still cool to kind of see that atmosphere for them and to be able to kind of get a game with that many fans. It was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Now you also had the opportunity to play for Team BC in the Western Regionals last winter with two of your teammates, Brooke and Hutchings, Keegan Goulet. So maybe touch upon that experience, what it meant to you to go with two of your friends and teammates at the time and to score the game winner in overtime to win that gold medal.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. I'm glad I got to experience it along with Keegan and Hutch, great teammates. And that scoring the goal was incredible too. I'll never forget the feeling after the game. It was pretty crazy, especially because they beat us the first game. So we kind of were going in there with a fight mindset, you could say. And just like it being COVID kind of changed the tournament up, kind of changed the style of how it usually was. I think we definitely excelled and brought the best out there.
Do you remember how that game-winning goal kind of went down there?
Yeah, so 3-on-3. We were the second shift to go out. And it was kind of like a face-off, I believe, in our end, loose puck. And then it was kind of like I seen the opportunity to stretch. And so I did. And luckily she got the pass. I didn't go offside. And then we scored. So it was kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. You also had a chance over the summer to go to a Hockey Canada camp there at the U18 level, I believe it was. What did it mean to you over the summer to be recognized nationally, even though it may not have been, the main women's program that goes to the Olympics? Just the fact that you're on the radar of organization like Hockey Canada and that sort of thing to be able to showcase your talents at that national level.
Yeah, it was pretty neat experience. I do have to say that. There was like 46 of us, I think, from across Canada. So being able to see all the different girls who are about the same as you getting to come together at once was pretty awesome. There was lots of learning, definitely. We spent 2 weeks there and it was an eye-opener and it kind of helped, it helps you, I don't know, we worked on a lot of skill stuff like that and we got to play an exhibition game against Finland, which was pretty cool, the first international game. And just kind of the whole experience definitely was an eye-opener and makes you bring back things to your club teams for the winter time, just kind of with that experience under your belt.
I guess one question that I have, and I'm sure maybe some other people have, is it maybe raised some eyebrows over the summer, is that you decided to go to the academy route for your last year instead of staying with the Capitals for a fourth season, I guess. Just maybe touch on that decision, and maybe was it just time for a change? Did you kind of see maybe a better opportunity for more exposure? What kind of led to that for you?
Yeah, it was just kind of a little mix of everything. I had already spent 3 seasons there. I put a lot of time in, and I was definitely very comfortable there, which can be a good and a bad thing in some ways. So yeah, it was just kind of like my grade 12 year, a little bit of a change maybe. I spent the past 3 years with all those girls who graduated last year, and they were kind of moving on. And so I kind of did the same.
Mm-hmm. Just maybe touch on life in Kelowna, just, being an athlete at the Rink Academy, and kind of maybe how you compare the level of competition compared to what you were facing previously at the BC Elite Hockey League level.
Yeah, we spend most of our day training, so it's a very busy schedule here. We put a lot of time into the developing and such, I could say. The skill, I guess it just depends on the team we play. Like, we've got some pretty good competition in our league right now, especially from Delta and Shawnigan. So that's kind of nice. And we're looking to play more of the teams this coming weekend and the next. So we'll get to kind of see more of an eye-opening of the competition in our league.
You're playing against a couple of your old teammates too, in Casey Dittner and Maria Eyre, who are with Northern Alberta Extreme, as well as Brooke Norcus, who's with the Delta Academy there. Is it kind of funny? You spent so much time with each other over a course of a couple of years. Now you find yourselves playing against each other in a different league.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because Maria actually was my billet sister. So we're pretty close, and it's quite funny. I like to play against my old teammates because on the ice, you're not really friends. So when you're going at each other, it kind of makes it a whole lot better. And yeah, it's just great to see all the teammates. I've actually had a lot of girls I played with, even in like my Pee Wee hockey days, that are in the league now too. So it's nice that we're all here and we get to play against each other.
Yeah, because you see a lot of Northern kids, or at least a good smattering of them, on these sports school league rosters from your area and abroad. You had mentioned that you had played Pee Wee with or against some of these kids that you're in the same league with now. So maybe touch on some of the teams you played on in the Dawson Creek area when you were kind of going through the minor hockey ranks. Any specific teams or memories from your minor hockey days before making the jump to the Caps that stand out at all?
Yeah, I played some of my minor hockey days for Dawson Creek, and then once I got to Pee Wee, there was a regional district team for girls, the Peace Country Predators. And so they made some good memories there. We did a lot of travel tournaments, and we didn't practice together because we weren't in a league, so we only did tournaments that year. But I definitely have made a lot of different friends, and some of the girls actually from that team are down in Kelowna now, and I get to go to school with them here. So it's kind of funny how we all meet back together at some point in our lives. And then I also played in Grand Prairie for the Peace Country Storm in my first year Bantam before I came to the Caps. And same thing. I found myself playing against some of those girls in this league now. And it's just nice to see some familiar faces.
As you know, registration for the women's game is certainly on the uptick. The talent's growing. The style of playing, the players, of course, are getting better, and there's more opportunities at the grassroots level and where you are, especially at the collegiate league. We're seeing a lot more Northern Capital players at the Canada West programs. Just speaking with Ella Boone, and we see her on the same team with Brooklyn Hutchings and Carson Niven, who you also know, Keegan Goulet, Brett Cooley, as well as a couple others playing university hockey. With that being said, for as much growth as the women's game has seen, what's the one thing in your mind that you would like to see change or done better within women's hockey so that the growth doesn't stop at a certain point?
I don't know. Maybe just to keep the girls in the game for longer, make sure that they have an opportunity, because I know some towns, like, they don't have as many girls and they might get stuck on playing the boys. And so some of them might not get a chance to actually be on a girls team until they're later on in their Pee Wee Bantam years. So I said maybe getting some more exposure to that. I know they're already working on some of the camps through BC Hockey, but maybe just a little more.
What's the one thing you want to accomplish at rink this year, either team-wise or individual-wise at all?
Individual, definitely. I'm working on getting committed to a university right now. That's kind of my main goal and focus. And then a team, I think we all just want to get better and grow and make sure we're all sending each other off to university or our next years at rink better as best as we can.
Do you have a preference on whether or not you want to stay in Canada collegiately, or your eyes kind of set on landing either an NCAA or ACHE or a similar type scholarship?
Not really. I think I've definitely kept my options open, and like the same thing, like a lot of my former teammates play Canada West, and it would be awesome to play against them one day again. But just kind of wherever feels right and seems like the right fit right now is kind of where I'm leaning.
All right, Hailey. Well, thank you very much for spending a few moments with me on this Hockey North podcast. You're a terrific player, and when in terms of broadcasting your games over 3 seasons with the Capitals, and it's nice to see your continued success, and we're happy to support you wherever your hockey journey takes you from rink after that. So thank you so much for spending some moments with us, and maybe we can do this again in the not too distant future.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you.
All right, and that was our interview with Hailey Armstrong. Any final thoughts on that interview, Brendan?
Oh, just great insight. Just maybe talking about the decision. Obviously, sometimes in the background, sometimes you'll say player left for the X reason or this reason, and I guess for Hailey, it was just a matter of spending 3 seasons with the same program. Growing with that core, and then obviously all of that core graduating and aging out, and just making another decision for her development, as well as talking about going as far as she can in the game, as we hear with many other female players. So nice to see Hailey thriving down at rink, and it was an absolute pleasure to watch and broadcast her games over the past 3 seasons with the Northern Capitals. And I, like a lot of people, hoping she goes as far as she can, and hopefully land that scholarship rather soon, as she's certainly more than deserving of it.
Absolutely, and same here. The pleasure to be able to cover the Northern Capitals over the last couple seasons, and when I first came to the program here, she was a player that stood out, and I was right away taken back by how special the talent that she is. And I wouldn't say it's too unreasonable to venture to say that maybe one of the best players are the Northern Capitals program has probably seen. And coming out of a small town like Dawson Creek, that's a pretty cool story. And so we wish Hailey all the best here with rink and going forward. And on to the next interview, we have Prince George Spruce Kings goal scorer and Hudson Hope BC product, John Herrington, coming on. What are your opening thoughts?
John, of course, another guy that's worked hard, starred with the Cariboo Cougar program, did it the right way. I mean, you just take a look at his stats. U18, his first year, 27 points, 40 games, and then point per game tear, 34 points in 37 games that final season for him, where he assumed the captaincy. He also had a couple of stints before with the Fort St. John Flyers and the Northeast BC Yukon Trackers. Just before joining Cariboo, we get into that during the interview, but a guy that's seen a gradual rise, going from an 8P to a top 6, top 9 guy, now an elite top flight forward with the Prince George Spruce Kings, and the Lake Superior commit. More than off to a hot start for the Spruce Kings, point per game guy for them, and leading the way for a Spruce Kings team that has a chance to do some damage again this year, not only for the rest of the regular season, but heading into the playoffs. And here I am with Hudson's Hope product, John Herrington, on this year's edition of the Spruce Kings, as well as growing up in Hudson's Hope. All right, I'm with John Herrington of the Prince George Spruce Kings. John, Spruce Kings off to a great 5-1 start this season. I guess first and foremost, what seems to be working well for your team?
Yeah, we just got 4 lines that are running right now, and everyone's playing and everyone's doing the little things right now, and it's working for us right now, so it's good.
John, you're off to a pretty hot start, over a point per game pace. You're off a career season last year. What momentum did you take over from last season into this year? And are you kind of maybe assuming more of that leadership role too, with it being your third full season?
Yeah, I think just bringing confidence over from last year was the biggest part. A lot of hard work in the summer with Astrino Athletics. I think, taking on a bigger role as a leader. I split an A last year, and this year I have a full A, but letters don't really mean much in our team. We got 20 whatever leaders in there, right? Like everyone's got their own thing. Everyone's got a voice in the dressing room. So a little bit more of a leadership role, but nothing too crazy.
Are you a raw guy in the dressing room, or do you kind of let your play on the ice do the talking? How do you kind of define, your leadership qualities?
Definitely not a rah kind of guy. Never have been. I'm more of a try to be a lead by example guy for the younger guys and stuff. That's kind of what I try to do. But every now and again, I'll get in there and give my 2 cents, and sometimes it works out.
Yeah. No, you've been known to have a heck of a one-timer, almost a pro level shot in terms of it, your one-time blast, especially on the power play. Just maybe talk about, how you got the shot to be as lethal as it is now, and how you're able to kind of continue to polish your offensive game over the course of the 3 seasons that you've been here.
Yeah, I never really hit one-timers, to be honest with you. Like, never really did it until like last year, pretty much. A little bit my first year with the Kings, we were kind of working on it. I think like Alex must have saw it before I saw it, that I did have a one-timer, because he kept putting me on that spot on the power play, and even when it wasn't working, I stayed there and we kept working on the one-timers, and just kind of like started to go in last year and started to get off the ice, and just looking to kind of get that confidence back this year and maybe find the back of the net one of these times.
Mm-hmm. So maybe talk about, obviously you're from Hudson's Hope. You're one of those rural northern kids. What was it like growing up playing minor hockey in that community? Just maybe take us through maybe your first moments or your earliest moments of playing growing up at home.
Yeah, well, it's like small town, 900 people, 1,000 people back then maybe. My dad would get off work early, he'd come pick me up at school, and we'd head to the rink, and then nobody would show up at the rink all day. So we'd have it from like 3 o'clock to about like 7. Then we'd go home for dinner. So for 4 hours, it'd just be me and my dad out there working on skating or shooting or whatever. So I think I might have not have had like a lot of kids nowadays with those academies and stuff. They're getting taught certain skills from young. I might have not had all that stuff, but I had like probably more ice time than all of them when I was younger. So.
Mm-hmm. Any like memories in terms of like playing in your hometown, in terms of like games or tournaments, or maybe how the teams were kind of, divvied up? Because as you say, your home community is fairly small.
Yeah, we like never really had full rosters, right? Like, I think one of my better memories would have been me and my buddy. We would play 60 minutes a game on defense. We were the only 2D. I used to play D until I was about Adams or something like that. So it would be the 2 of us back there for 60 minutes. We would never get off the ice. And then we had like a line and 2 spares or something on forward and a goalie. And that was all we had. And I think we were still one of the better teams in that league that they had up there.
Mm. Did you ever kind of like join forces with like any of the Fort St. John kids at all?
We did with Taylor one year, another small town outside of Fort St. John. And with Tumbler Ridge, I think we did once or twice maybe. But Fort St. John always had so many kids that they had like 8 or 10 teams.
Mm-hmm. So we talk about, obviously, let's go off topic for a moment. Obviously, there was that one wildfire that was near your home community over the summer there. I know your first and foremost focus was on hockey and getting ready for the season, but did you keep in tabs with a lot of people back home in terms of, the fire, and how much relief did you have once everybody was allowed back in Hudson's Hope and that it wasn't quite, the threat that it was there for what seemed to be several weeks?
Yeah. Well, that's like the third time in 10 years or 8 years that we've been evacuated there, or one time we didn't. But I think the scariest one was when I was younger, because it was like the first time. I think I was, I want to say 12 maybe. I think that was around when the first one happened, and we got evacuated for a couple days, and then it all kind of went away. The weather changed. And then this one I don't think was as bad. And my dad never left Hudson's Hope. He stayed there the whole time because we're on the opposite side of town from where the fire was. So he was on notice but never actually got evacuated. So he was keeping tabs and obviously letting me know. So I kind of knew what was going on. So I wasn't too worried about it this time.
Mm-hmm. So maybe talk about the decision to move away from home and, join the Cariboo program, and how playing for the Cariboo hockey program helped give you that chance or the platform to make the jump to the BCHL.
Yeah, when I was 15, I moved away from home. I played for the Trackers in Tier 1 midget league, and I AP'd with Cariboo a lot that year. And then so the jump from Fort St. John to Prince George wasn't really too much about the hockey, because I already knew the guys a lot. And so I felt like I fit in with like the hockey side pretty well. But going from Hudson's Hope to Fort St. John to Prince George was just like cities just keep getting bigger for me. So it's kind of funny. Some guys come from Vancouver and they come here. It's a small town, and I came here and it's the biggest city I've ever lived in. So it's a little bit different lifestyles from some of the guys on the team.
Mm-hmm. When did you kind of get the sense that you had what it takes to make the jump to Junior A with the Spruce Kings?
I think it was probably my 17-year-old year. I think I played 8 games or 10 regular season games, and then the first round of playoffs when I was 17. I was up pretty much once a week for practice, like with the Kings here. So I felt like when I came in as an 18-year-old, I felt like I knew I could make it. It was just about building confidence and just finding my role.
Mm-hmm. Now you committed to your college NCAA for the 2023-2024 season, Lake Superior State, I guess. What was it about that school or their offer in particular that kind of spoke to you the most and was maybe the best fit for you?
Yeah, they got that small town type feeling there. I think their campus is one of the smaller Division I hockey program like camps, and they say like you walk around town and people know you, like they know who you are and stuff. Like they don't have like a Division I football program there. Hockey's their only Division I program, so you're kind of like the team to watch all the time. So they get good crowds, and the teachers and everybody, they know who you are. So it's kind of a small town feeling. It's like close to home. It's a 5-minute walk away from Canada. It's right on the border. So I just felt like it was a pretty solid fit for me.
Any goals or specific things that you have in mind for the season?
Like individual goals or team goals?
Yeah, individual or team, doesn't matter.
I think I want to get past that second round in playoffs. Like I really want to make a good run here. I think we got the team to do it. I think we have a lot of depth. I think if we can get our 4 lines running at all cylinders for 60 minutes, I think we can give any team in this league a good run and playoff series.
Mm-hmm. Just maybe talk about, do you have any like pregame rituals or superstitions at all before you head out onto the ice for a game?
Yeah, I got like just little stuff. I do some stretches at this time, sewer until, 40 minutes before the game. And then it's just all time related kind of. Just little stuff. There's nothing crazy, Sidney Crosby rituals or superstitions.
Mm-hmm. Favorite away rink to play in?
Yeah, I like Trails. It's kind of an old barn. I like that feeling in there. There's a lot of history in that place, so it's kind of cool to go in there and play.
Yeah. Now, I would imagine the Collander's not too bad either.
The Colander?
I think it's the best restaurant they have there.
Oh yeah, we eat there lots and lots.
Well, Johnny, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today, and hopefully maybe we can cross paths again here later on in the season.
Right on. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Johnny.
All right, and that was our interview with John Herrington. And what are your final thoughts on that interview there, Brendan?
Just happy for, another small town kid to get the recognition he deserves and the success that he's worked so hard for. And you're talking about, growing up in a small community like Hudson's Hope, and him and his dad spending many hours at the local rink and just redefining his offensive game and just his game in general. And it's nice to see that him discover that slap shot that we see in the power play just 2 years ago. It's something that Alex even saw in practice, something that they worked on tirelessly a couple seasons ago, and you see the weapon that it is, as well as that record wrister that he has in his arsenal. So he's worked hard to get to where he is, and it's nice to see him get that league-wide recognition for that All-Star nod that he got just last week. And I'm sure that if this Prince George Spruce Kings are going to go anywhere this season, that John Herrington's going to be one of the main cogs in driving that bus.
For certain. And, the thing about John Herrington, you've mentioned it there, he's had to work so hard to get to where he is. And, the work's never finished. And you can see that in his game. And that seems to be the hallmark for a lot of these northern athletes that are coming through from these smaller, communities. And to get to where they are now, they have to fight for those opportunities. They got to improve continuously. And, another guy that comes to mind is Brett Fudger, another alumni of the Cariboo Cougars program. And, a very similar story, Hailey Armstrong coming out of Dawson Creek, Griffin and Paige Outhouse coming out of Likely, BC and Williams Lake. And those are just names. And so it's really cool to see the humbleness that these athletes have and the character that they bring on and off the ice for the teams that they play for.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that assessment, Tyler.
Awesome. And, that's going to do it here for our podcast today. I hope everyone enjoyed our interviews. They were, from what we can tell, really awesome. And we look forward to seeing you guys back here next week.
I need to know.